What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Be Better podcast. I'm here with my good friend, Ethan Fitzpatrick. Ethan, thanks so much for being on episode 17 with me, brother.
Thanks for having me here, Nate.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. So, obviously, we talked a little bit earlier. I know you from way back when, met on Xbox years ago, all that good stuff. But, for people out there who don't know you, could you give them like a quick rundown of like who you are, what you do?
Sure. So my name's Ethan. I am a boxer within New Jersey, Golden Glove champion in 2022. I work as a EMT on an ambulance. I'm also a state worker for the Department of Children and Families. That's DIFUS. And I'm just like major into fitness. I'm a real fitness junkie. So it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. So I want to talk about a little bit of like your journey because it's I've been following it for years, and I think you made. I mean, dude, like a lot of people say they want to do it. A lot of people think they want to do it, man, but you did it, right? Like you had a plan together and you did it, and the results have been fantastic. You went from a pretty heavy guy to a Golden Glove, boxer, right? So that's a huge jump. Could you kind of tell me a little bit more about your weight loss journey? Like what struck it on? Like when was your rock bottom point, and kind of go into like, how you're in your dominant form now.
Man, that is that's a long story. But so my rock bottom point was probably I was 355 pounds. It was like just an amalgamation of bad choices. Growing up, didn't have the greatest role models or structure, and made a lot of bad eating choices when I was younger, and kind of paid the price in it during my early adolescence. So I hit that rock bottom, dealing with trying to figure out what it is I really want in life. I was just at a point where I was like, fuck everything. Yeah, my bad. I don't mean to curse on the podcast.
So you know where you're at?
um,
I curse like a fucking
yeah.
sailor, dude. You're good.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was at a point where, I was like, I blew off life. And I ended up meeting a lot of good people working on the ambulance. People that started to show me like, hey, there's another path you can take. This all doesn't have to be miserable. There are things you can do to try and better yourself, be better.
Yeah, no kidding.
And I just took it one day at a time.
Yeah,
Um,
that's huge, man.
yeah. So I guess we could start with the ambulance. I ended up meeting a boxer on the ambulance. His name was Troy, and me and him got to know each other pretty well, working, taking care of patients, dealing with COVID. It was just like a really crazy time, dealing with the outbreak, dealing with COVID. Um, and we got to know each other pretty well, and we went through a lot of that hell together. So he was a boxer. He ended up showing me some of the techniques. I'm like, I was talking. I'm like, I always wanted to fight. I always wanted to try and train and learn how to box. So he brought me out to like a track and field in Halden, and I was again probably like 355 pounds, 300 pounds when I met him, and got my starting legs out. Started learning how to run. Started learning how to throw a punch, and like he'd just come up with these crazy uh, drill days every day. Just hot summer, just us, you know, running and just training. Like it felt like a Rocky movie, like Apollo Creed and Rocky Sylvester Stallone training together. You had me bear crawling up hills, and then for anybody who's local to New Jersey, there's a really famous running track, not track, but I guess path called Garrett Mountain that we ended up going over to, and it's like 3 miles uphill, and it's misery. So those those were the days. So that became me learning how to eat, learning how to properly take care of myself. I looked at it as war a lot. You got to go to war with yourself. When I was really heavy, I'd go to McDonald's or Wendy's for the night. I grabbed 3 cheeseburgers, whatever the hell I wanted for the day, burger fry, what do you call baconator fries, and just go to town. And then that became all right. Let me try two. Let me try maybe three with just no buns, and let me just whittle away slowly, surely. one day at a time at the old image of me. Um, that got me healthy enough to get to a point where I made it to my boxing gym, which is like that's where the real progress started to happen. Then I met coach, I met a lot of the fighters at my boxing gym, and like it's a lot like pack animals. It's like being in a group of dogs. They say to nurse a sick dog back to health, you have to introduce it to a pack of healthy animals. And when that applies to like human psychology, if you want to be a better person, quote unquote, you need to surround yourself with good role models. You need to surround yourself with people that you look up to and aspire to be for to make that transformation and become them.
Yeah, I completely agree. So just you're going on that little that little rundown of kind of your story, man, reminds me of a bunch of different things that I've seen just recently and throughout my life. Is one, I saw this picture the other day, and it was I read the Stoics meditations from Marcus
Marcus
Aurelius.
Aurelius, yeah, I love him. He's
Oh my God.
great.
I finished it late last year, and like I tried to touch at least read one or two passages a day. So I subscribed to some accounts that post about it daily. And one of the picture was it was a really, really, like a Greek god, right? This chiseled down to his core, and it said suffer above his head. And then it said or suffer, and it was a big gluttonous fat. And
Right.
it just got me thinking, I'm like, dude, like the suffering is going to come one way or the other, right? But like, are you going to
Yeah.
suffer to be in peak performance of health, and hopefully the good health comes along with that, or are you going to let yourself go to shit and whittle away over time and diminish yourself into a fat slob, and you're going to suffer then? So pick your suffering, right? It's going to suck either way, but pick your
Yeah.
suffering. And I love that you said the real work began whenever you got into the boxing gym. I mean, I started going to this MMA gym last year, and I've kind of slipped off since the wedding. So I shout out to ES MMA, man. You're the best fucking gym around, and I need to come back ASAP. But when I got in there, not only was it really humbling, like you said, but the pack mentality, right? I firmly believe that you are the average of the five people you surround yourself with the most. So if you're hanging around with five badasses who eat, sleep, and breathe fitness and excellency, you're going to have no choice but to be the sixth. Like it's just going to come, right? If you hang out with, pieces of dirt that are just, basically pissing their life away, eating junk, they complain about their problems, but there's never an action plan to solve it, dude, you're going to be stuck in that matrix forever. And I think I'm really happy to see that you broke that. You broke that, you broke the mold essentially, man.
Yeah. I still like it, it really was a miracle when it comes down to it. Like I really feel like there's no way I should have made such a turnaround that I did. A lot of it was the competition of boxing. I entered my gym and I started, like you said, surrounding myself with these people that, there was Nicky the Bull Vitone. He was this boxer going pro at the time with great record. I was watching him get on stage performing. I'm like, damn, I wonder if I could do that. I met one of my coaches there, Tamer, who just kicked the crap out of me every day. Every time I'd get in the ring, I'd spar with him. I'd leave with like a bloody nose and like I just have the biggest smile on my face and like, damn, that was awesome. Then here's another heavyweight who has his stuff together and he's teaching me how to, be a man. Met coach and he ran the entire show and he's the pack master and keeps all the dogs in line. So, um, yeah, it was a journey, man.
Suffer or suffer, right? That's really
Yep,
what it is.
suffer or
Suffer or
suffer.
suffer.
I
That's
got what is it, Invictus on my wall actually. It's funny you mentioned those philosophers and I actually, if you want to, I could directly relate that to like my experiences with the ambulance. Like literally you can suffer one of two ways. One of the ways you can suffer is to treat your body right, eat healthy, deny eating sugary sweets, and I still struggle with it. I'm still a fat boy at heart, um there's
I'm
a
still a
pack
fat boy right now. I get it.
there's a package of muffins upstairs that's been staring me down for like the past month now, but I keep not eating it. So and then I'm on the ambulance and I see these patients who are like 400, 500 pounds, need an entire team to lift them, have missing limbs, can't even sit up on their own anymore. And I'm like, damn, that could have been me. That literally could have been me if I didn't figure this out and I didn't have the right people around me helping me out. So
Yeah, you're right, man. I think unfortunately, and I've said this before on the podcast too, like we live in the greatest country in the history of the world, in my opinion, right? And
I
everything
agree.
that anything that Americans could ever want is typically at a hand's reach, right? Like sweets, indulgences, porn, all these bad influences, man. Like we get everything so easily and so quickly. I think people sometimes lose sight of their discipline and they get to that point, right? They get to it starts with, oh, I'm just gonna eat some ice cream tonight. Okay. Then maybe they use it, like you said earlier, as a crutch, right? Maybe they had a bad day. Well, damn, that ice cream made me feel kind of good. They had another bad day. Damn, that ice cream made me feel good. And they just keep spiraling and spiraling. And then what happens 20 years later, they're 400 pounds, they're diabetic, they need a kidney transfer, they need a liver transfer, they have heart disease and they're missing their foot, and they need somebody like you and four other people to lift them up, and I think it's an easy slope to go down, right? And just
It's
having those
it's tough.
disciplines need to stay there.
It's definitely tough. Like a lot of I want to say a majority of the weight that I put on wasn't even just like a lot of it's mental health. A lot of it just boils down to kind of what you were just describing, like, oh, I'm going to eat ice cream, I'm going to feel good for 30 minutes because I just shot my endorphins up and all those feel good chemicals, and then I'm going to go back to my same habits, and I haven't actually changed anything about my character or my surroundings, so I'm just going to keep spiraling in the same um kind of pattern over and over again. And that's where I was at. That's I was not happy with who I was not happy with my surroundings, my environment at the time growing up. And at some point, you do hit that rock bottom where it's like, all right, I can eat, there's two different choices. It's either I'm going to die if I keep going like this and I'm going to be even more miserable, or I got to start climbing for where I'm at now. And like, it's crazy because like, I think I had to struggle this hard just to kind of be basic. Like to be at an average athletic level, I had to, put in twice as much work as the normal person, but it's so worth it to finally have some of the rewards that life has to offer rather than to just go through and be miserable for most of it.
Yeah, I think you're right, man. And that's a huge thing. I think the mental health side of it is everybody thinks, oh, I'm overweight. I can just go to the gym, do some cardio. Like, dude, that's great. Like, no doubt about it. That works for sure. But like, if you don't fix the underlying problems, like if your house's foundation's fucked up and you put a new roof on it, it's not going to matter, right? Like, it doesn't help the
Right.
house integrity, right? For me too, I've struggled with weight loss my whole entire life. I mean, in eighth grade, I was 280 pounds. Um, by freshman year, I was 130, 39. So, I lost a shit ton of weight in the span of 1 year. Now I cheated, so it's a little different, but I was addicted to Adderall and was eating like, 200 calories a week for fuck's sake. So the weight just shredded off me. But, when I was getting into, being active, working out multiple times a day throughout high school, I was like 208, 210, pretty strong guy. All my lifts were very good. I was lean, healthy. But after high school, you get comfortable, you get a job, life gets ahead of you. Like I'm 228 right now, 229, and I was 270 2 years ago, and I'm trying to drop. But you lose a little bit, and then you get comfortable, then you get proud of yourself, and you lose your disciplines, and then it comes back up slowly, right? So like,
Right.
well, for me, it's like if I can just keep myself around like a 210, 215, and I don't have that long to go, right? But if I could get to a 210, 215 and be there and be healthy, I'd be happy as hell with that. But it's so hard because still to this day, I'm breaking bad habits. I have a sweet tooth like nobody's business. I
Yeah,
love I
same
love
here.
ice cream, dude. I love fucking concretes. I love custard. It's all the bad shit that makes you feel good. But what would happen, right? Before I have a stressful day at work, what am I doing? I'm going to grab a fucking ice cream cone, right? Or I'm going to grab a shake or a malt or something, right? And it's just this thing where like it gives you, like you said, those little endorphins rush. Everything feels fucking great for 20 minutes. My insulin spikes, right? My
Yep.
sugar's high. I'm feeling good. I forget about my problem. But am I solving the problem? No.
Right.
I'm putting a band-aid on a bullet hole, and it's really just prolonging my inevitable failure. So I just I love it when people like you who've had more of a significant journey than people like myself, and you're able to identify those key factors and, kind of put the pin on that mental health as the core foundation of the whole deal.
It really is. Because like I think there's I typically I'm a person who overindulges in like everything I do. When I was not my healthiest, it was food, comfort food. It was alcohol that, kind of brought me away, gave me an escape. It was video games that gave me an escape. It was pot. It was, all these activities that I was taking part of that maybe a normal person can do, but for somebody like me who is all or nothing, like I can't just be a boxer. I got to be, a boxing Golden Glove fighter or whatever you want to call it. Like, and once you start to notice like these patterns in yourself and you start to figure out who you are, then you can really try and work on yourself. And it's possible to change. It is possible to make those adjustments. For me, what like it's not easy. Don't it's very easy for somebody like me to say, "Hey, just stop drinking, stop eating, stop." No, it's a struggle that has taken me the better part of 10, 15 years to figure out. But what I was saying before, that a lot of the work began to be done when I was in the boxing gym, was when I started getting to the Golden Gloves. Up until that point, I was surrounding myself with good people. I was working with my coach, learning how to spar. I got my first fight, my first win. That was amazing. It was such a huge endorphin rush, such a huge like burst of energy. Family that I hadn't seen in years come out to see me, fight, and having that support behind me meant a lot and allowed me to keep pushing forwards. And then the Golden Gloves came around, which I'm a chubby boy from the burbs weighing 280 pounds at that time. And I'm fighting this guy named Thor, and he literally looks like a Greek sculpture, like Zeus, like the statue of Zeus himself came down to fight me. Um, and I remember the first fight we had before the Golden Gloves, I managed to win. And then the second fight we had, he beat me. So it was like 1-1. And then we were going into the final championship round for the Golden Gloves. And I had to really sit down with myself and give up. I had to sacrifice things. I had to sacrifice alcohol. I completely cut it out of my life. I had to sacrifice pot. I cut that out of my life. Some of the hardest battles ever was just giving up those two things. I remember one of my buddies, Basim, sat me down. He's like, dude, you could end up winning this. And me and him would go to the mosque like every night, up until the final championship fight. And he would pray with me, and like, we'd go through the ceremonies and the rituals, and like just clearing your head out and having a goal, having somebody in front of you that's like, I really want to win this fight. I really want to be the best version of me. And ended up winning in 2022. And there was that celebration after where it's like, oh, now I could drink, now I could smoke, now I could do all the stuff. And I didn't. And then I just kept going. So
Are you? I didn't know. Are you Muslim?
no, I actually tend to just, I go around and I've been to mosques, I've been to temples for the Buddhist religion, I've been to synagogues, cathedrals. I kind of just explore everything. I'm the type of person who thinks there's no one true path to God. I'm kind of just trying to look for the relationship wherever I hear him.
I feel that, man. I have a similar view on it as well. I was described by a person I respect quite a bit recently. He was at first, we got on the topic of religion. He was asking me, what kind of how my game plan is, right? Kind of what my methods are. And he was like, Nate, you're a Messianic Jew. And I was like, I'm an Italian Catholic man. I was like, I am not a Messianic fucking Jew. And I started doing some research, and I was like, holy shit. I was like, I could definitely fall into that category. So
Yeah.
that's kind of funny what you said, but no, I'm not a big deal. I mean, I don't care, man. I don't judge people based on religion. I judge people based on actions. So,
Right.
I mean, whenever you said you were going to mosque, I thought that was really cool. I've never been inside of a mosque. I drove past them many times, but I've never, stuck my head in. Maybe it'd be a worthwhile experience just to kind of see what's out there. But, in my opinion, dude, like as far as mental health goes, and then I'll go back to what I wanted to cover in a second, but that just kind of caught me off guard, so I wanted to touch
Yeah.
on it.
All good.
I think when you rely on a higher power and you realize that at the end of the day, man, like you need to just do your best, but the ultimate fate of you is out of your hands, kind of, when the higher power is there to kind of give you that support, it's a lot easier to get things done, in my opinion, to know that somewhere out there it's bigger than you. You know, it's not just all about you and this little blue marble we got rolling around through space. There's something out there that's a grander design. You know what I mean?
I was talking to one of my buddies last night, and he put it perfectly. He said, "The divine light is very easy to follow when your life is either very terrible or it's in a really good spot. It's when you're in that middle zone, when you're right in limbo, where that, your personal ego starts to come out, and it's really hard to follow that path." So,
A good point. I think you're right. You know, because what do you see? You always see people in the terrible spot of their life, and they're always so, outreaching to a higher power. The
mhm.
people that are doing very, very well, they're also, thanking the higher power. I agree with you that it's the kind of the limbo part, right? The middle, the 50% middle part where you're just like, fuck, like what do I do here?
That's where
But
I'm at right now. I'm like kind of
yeah,
just every day is a little bit of Groundhog's Day. I'm kind of just doing the same routine over and over and over again. A lot of people see the end result. They see the championship win. They see the win at the fight. They don't see the months and months of just the same slog, the same routine over and over, waking up, going to the gym, getting to work, going from work to the gym again, going back to bed at 11 o'clock on the dot, eating right, sleeping right. It's very repetitive and mind numbing. Like it'll drive you crazy. And I think that's part of the struggle with the weight loss in general is just being consistent.
yeah, no doubt. I want to I want to back up just a couple of seconds. Can we talk about something I'm curious about? So I've never done a combat sport
Sure.
competition wise. I've sparred, worked out, did the classes, all the good stuff, but I've never been in a real combat sport situation where, it's me versus somebody in a ring. Um, what is the loss? I mean, the win feels great. You said that. It's a huge endorphin rush. Everything's great. Can you kind of explain how the losses feel and how does someone like you recover from something like that? Physically and
Um,
mentally, of course.
I'm really glad you asked that. Everybody in my gym says that, especially in combat sports, like no other sport is like it. It's like taking drugs. Like the wins are the most euphoric. Like, oh my god, I conquered this. I became the best version of me for this night. Like this is something that I put so much time and effort and like focus, especially focus into. And there's no greater feeling that I've experienced yet. I think besides that moment of victory, that moment of triumph where you really defeat that other version of you, and I'll get into that in a second. Um, and then the losses are like you go to a dark place, bro. You go to a dark place. There have been fights that I like. Thank God I've had my teammates and my coach to nurse us out of those moments because every fighter goes through it. Anybody who's ever been in a combat sport, when you lose, it's I can't even describe it. It's like just a pit. You go into a pit of not even depression, just like sometimes it's hate, sometimes it's anger. You're always like, maybe if I did this different, maybe if I ate different, 2 weeks ago. And I'm at a better spot with it now where I've come to the understanding that I gave it my all with what I had throughout my training session. Like whenever I lose, now, I'm like, okay, I know I gave it my all. Now, there's always more to do. It's kind of weird making that distinction. Like, yes, I'm not going to beat myself up as much anymore because I know I did everything I could in the moments I could to get to where I'm at. But now I got to be better. Now I got to, that one day out of the week where I decided to stay home and not train, that has to be me now training. That one meal that I missed and didn't, hold that line and didn't maintain my discipline. Now I'm going to make sure that I stay on top of that. Maybe even like stupid stuff like, oh, that one time I didn't decide to do my laundry or take out the trash, and that caused me to be 5 minutes late to my practice, and I missed the warm up, and maybe that would have been the little like tiny bit of peak that pushed me over the edge. So it's yeah, the wins and losses, it's what like even some of the most famous boxers in the world, like Ali and oh my god, trying to remember one of the other ones. Tyson, I think, has talked about it too. But like losing is so bad that Like it makes those morning run like there hasn't been a single day where I've woken up and wanted to go running in the morning. Losing feels so bad that I do it anyway, though. Oh man.
I get what you're saying. I can relate that to business, man. So like the only way I can kind of relate it is like I said, in the business platform. Like I strive every month to be number one on my sales team, right? To fucking
Right.
dominate, kick ass, right? And I've been beat many times. I've been number one many times. But I'll tell you, like, the little mundane things that I have to do, I know in the back of my mind I have to do to help me be number one. It's the same outcome, right? Like if I don't do it and I lose, I'll go back through the same process and be like, well, dude, maybe if I would have took that meeting at 6 o'clock on a Saturday, maybe that would have been been the one that kind of pushed me to the next level, all the good stuff. So I get what you're saying, but I understand. Excuse me, I don't understand because I haven't done it, but I can see where you're coming from as far as like the pit, right? I can imagine your ego is beat up, your
Oh,
body physically beat up, right? And like all that you did, I'm sure a part of your mind's like it was all for nothing. But then you said, I hope that the thought that you were trained into was there's more work to be done.
hmm we
Yeah.
look at it as lessons, not losses. That's one really good way to approach it. It's tough. You get beaten up in front of all your friends, all your family, all the ladies you like. Like that's it takes a strong man to get back up and be like, all right, let's get back to the gym tomorrow, and I'm gonna try and be better, I guess, the next day. That's tough. I've seen people, some of the pros that I work with lose their televised fights. That's not only their family, friends, and loved ones.
As
That's
a career.
that's their career. That's the judges. That's half the nation watching whenever they're watching. Like it's, but it's the old Rocky quote. It ain't how hard you get hit. It's how hard, or it ain't how hard you hit. It's how hard you can get hit, get back up, and keep moving forward.
Yeah, no doubt about that. What's the is the sportsman like pretty good in the ring, right? So like if you beat somebody up pretty good and like, are they like I'm sure you are because I know you're a good guy, but like I'm sure every loss you've been respectful and kind of treated the opponent fairly, right? Is that kind of how the cadence is typically, or have there been like some kind of shitheads in there that are just like real salty and the sportsman like behavior goes out the window?
I mean, there's going to be one-off situations wherever you go, but most of the fighters that I've gotten into the ring with, we come out kind of like brothers by the end of it. It's really weird when you break down some of the behind the scenes processes. So before we even get into the ring together, they have us stand next to each other in a line. We call it death row. And like we're waiting until we see the doctor. We're waiting until we get on the scale together, and like we're just talking to each other. It's kind of weird standing next to your opponent and just being like, "Hey," and they kind of just look back and don't say anything. So half the time we end up chatting with each other, or at least I will. Get to know their name, get to know their story, get to know why they're fighting, and like more times than not, they're so similar to me. Like I remember Thor. I talk about him because I respect the hell out of him, and he helped me change my life around a lot. He was a person who was a really, really skinny guy when he was younger. He was the exact opposite problem of me. I was so heavy my entire life. He was really skinny his entire life. So we had that kind of in common. And I've met fighters. Peter, me and him have been going at it in like a 2-3 battle series. Savan, me and him, and we all follow each other on Instagram and Facebook, and support each other's content. So it's a really tight knit community, dysfunctional but tight knit.
That's awesome, man. I'm happy to hear it too, because I always think like when I watch like UFC and I see guys like Khabib, they're like he's having a full blown conversation while he's beating your ass. Like he's already got in your head, like
Yeah.
it's over, right? But like it's good to see that the average boxer, the average fighter is like having that typical conversation. Like at the end of the day, you guys have the same goal, right? And there
hmm
probably is a ton of similarities in there. But man, if the world could look at it like that level, man, like you see all these conflicts popping up around the world, and I'm like just what you just said kind of just got me thinking. I'm like, dude, imagine if like the countries that are having these conflicts, dude, they could just stand on death row together and just have a conversation. Like if they
So
could have if it was mandatory that two presidents of two countries had to talk for 24 hours before they went to war, there wouldn't be any war. I guarantee it. They would probably figure something out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that would be nice. And the way we look at it isn't, it's me versus this enemy. It's never me versus Savan. It's never me versus Thor. It's never me versus Peter. It's me versus me. Every time I step into that ring, I'm not fighting these other guys I see in the ring. I'm fighting myself. I'm trying to become the best version of myself. I'm trying to like ascend, you know? I'm trying to climb the ladder. I'm trying to uh stop, you know, the bad habits. I'm trying to be more patient with people in my life. I'm trying to take it one day at a time and enjoy, you know, enjoy the little things. Like it, all these little mantras kind of add up, but it's about building a character that you want to be. And when that bell goes off and that fight night finally comes through, that's the test. That's to see, all right, what am I made of? You know, am I, what hits am I going to take? What punches am I going to barely miss? And it comes down to small choices in your everyday life. Now, if we have two boxers fight and they're living the same exact life patterns, they're, you know, both are training just as hard as the other, both are training, um, and, you know, have the same pattern, style, fight, whatever you want to call it. One of them goes home and has a family life and, you know, sleeps right, eats right. The other person goes off to a nightclub and parties the whole night away and drinks and does drugs. Like, I'm gonna, 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna say that that other man was the better man that night, and you know was more prepared for the fight.
No doubt about it. I think you're so right there. I think if you see all the elite fighters, now there's, exceptions to the rule, but like you see the elite fighters, they're disciplined in the ring, they're disciplined off the ring. You know, like
Right. Roy Jones was like notorious for being one of the most disciplined fighters ever. Floyd Mayweather, he has all these videos of him going out and like popping bottles and partying. People don't know is he never actually drank the alcohol. That was all for show. He, the bottles he'd fill up, he in like behind the scenes interviews, he'd dump out the alcohol and then fill it up with water. And then not only that, he would run home in his Jeep. Like that guy was crazy. That's what greatness is. That's like that's insanity, but you can't beat that, man. That's insanity.
I mean, dude, if you want to have a record like Floyd it was like 54-0, right? With a couple
Yeah.
exhibition fights that are W's too. I mean, dude, like you can't do the ordinary shit, right? You can't be the regular guy. You know, guys like Floyd that are doing, and I'm not a big Floyd fan by any means, but I think he's kind of a douchebag. But there's other great fighters that are like Muhammad Ali, for example. I'm a huge Mike Tyson fan as well. Like, dude, Mike Tyson never went 20% in the gym and felt good enough. He was giving it 110% every single day, killing himself, right? Like doing crazy shit to become number one, to be the best of the heavyweight category in the late 80s, early 90s, right? So like if you want to be average, you're going to get average results by doing average things. If you want to be
Right.
extraordinary, you do extraordinary things, you're going to get extraordinary results. It's really that simple.
I boil it down to what you put in is what you're going to get out, you know? And that could be really applied to anything in life. And that's something I've taken away from boxing that I've applied in my work, I've applied in my diet, I've applied in my relationship with my families. Like the more effort you make, the more you're going to receive. And like it's just energy in, energy out.
Yeah, that's so true, man. So where do you want to go with your boxing career?
That's tough. Like, you know, the ego in me is like, oh, I want to be heavyweight champion of the world. I want to be like the original actual dream was the Olympics. I'm a huge fan of like the old gods, Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, all that stuff. Growing up, reading, you know, the Lightning Thief, the Percy Jackson series, and um, so like Olympics, I think that would be like all time dream. Um, Pros, I could definitely see down the line. I'm kind of trying to take it one day at a time right now. Life is getting in the way a little bit, you know. I want to get an apartment. I want to make some money, so I'm having to balance training with working and trying to do more content stuff on Instagram. I really just want to enjoy it, have fun with it. I'm meeting a lot of new boxers. Shout out to one of my buddies, Malachi, who just won um, the Olympic trials. I believe it's like the tryouts, so you can get into the Olympic team. He's like actually going to the Olympics. That kid won the national Golden Gloves, and I was supremely honored enough to be able to spar him once in my gym. So there's a lot of work I got to do definitely there's levels to the sport. My next goal right now is winning the 2024 Golden Gloves. It's coming up in March. So I'm nursing a couple injuries I'm trying to get through right now, and learning some different styles of how to box. So that's going to be the next big trial I got in front of me. And then win that. Maybe I do some national competitions after that. Just take it one day at a time, man.
Oh yeah, dude, I love that. I mean, it's good to have, for me too, man. In anything in life, I've always tried to have a roadmap, right? I call it the roadmap to success. And I mean, if you don't know where you're going and you're just driving aimlessly, who knows where you're going to end up, you know? But like, if your end
Yeah.
goal, your dream goal is to be in the Olympics, but like you're like, hey, at least I want to get to this. At least I want to get to this. And you said the level part. At least if you know what the levels are, and you can kind of work your way up, right? Do you get to the very top at the end of your journey? Maybe not, but at least you know which level you fell on, and there's no question in your mind where you ended. You know what I mean?
Shoot for the moon, land among the stars, you know?
That's right, brother. That's exactly right. So how did I want to transition to something that's actually kind of a little more fun in my opinion, but how the hell where does the comedy stuff come into, right? So like you're an EMT, right? Obviously you've been saving lives, all that good stuff throughout the pandemic and all that fun stuff. Um,
Oh man.
but where boxing
Um,
comes in, you're kicking ass in that category, and you just woke up and was like, "Hey, what? I'm a mildly funny guy. I want to go give this a try." What happened?
so I think there's, like every once in a while in your life, you have something that calls to you. You have something that really speaks to you. You're like, damn, I want, like you see a person, I want to live a life like that. I see a person that, like, I wish I had something that they had, For me, that was watching Louis C.K. on stand-up comedy. It was watching Joe Rogan and his podcast. It was watching all these comedians, Ralphie May, and
Alfie May.
here's this huge dude. It
Rest in
didn't
peace,
matter
Ralphie
how he
May.
looked, he was hilarious. He like dying of laughter. All these people who were dealing with mental issues, Ralphie May especially, dealing with all these fucked up things in their lives, Ari Spears, and
He's one of the goats, man. Very
yeah,
underrated. Very underrated.
I fucking love Ari Spears. And they had all these problems and all these issues, and yet they still were able to chase after something in their life, and they still, like, found there's the. I think Bill Burr talks about it. You can have a shit sandwich, but you can at least pick around the sides. So, comedy was one of those things that even when times were dark, I'm like, I'm gonna laugh my ass off tonight and enjoy the night, whether or not the rest of the day was fun. And then eventually that became, wonder what it'd be like getting on stage. And then I'm very much a person who's just like, all right, I'm going to do it. How bad could it be? If I get laughed off the stage, I'll get laughed off. And started going to New York during the pandemic. So that was, I'm dealing with all these dark issues, this death, this destruction, in the nursing homes, dealing with all these people passing away that I'd know for a week or two. And I wanted to change that into something I'd be happy with, So I wanted to figure out who I was, what I was going through, and the stage gave me an outlet, having a microphone and just being able to go up there and do battle with the audience. So
Yeah, dude. I like I said, man, I've been to a couple comedy shows, and I went during the pandemic when the world was all sadness and dark and gloom, and there was no hope and
yeah.
uncertainty all around us, man. Like those comedy shows it's good that they lock the doors because you are truly in, like, you can't get out. You're truly in you're just a great ball of fun and energy. And when we went to the comedy shows, middle of the pandemic, right? Like, dude, we had such a great time. Everything outside of us for an hour and a half didn't matter. It didn't matter.
Hmm.
We didn't even remember what was going on. We were on a different realm of existence, man. Just in this little comedy club. I'll never forget the first guy I ever saw. His name was Michael Malone. You ever heard of him before?
Maybe, maybe not. It's possible.
He's from PA, I believe. But dude is so fucking funny. And I've actually saw him twice. And he performed the same shit. He didn't have anything new the second time I saw him, but it was incredible. And I love when people try to get into the comedy space, dude, for the right reasons. Like I watch guys like Jim Brewer and
Oh man, yeah.
dude, my whole family could die in a plane crash. You put Jim Brewer on, I'm gonna be in tears laughing so hard, man. It's so good, man. Or like 2006 Cat Williams special.
Oh, Cat Williams is another. I know he's going crazy right now, but I still love his comedy. He's made me
He's so
crack more
good.
than anybody.
He's so good, man. There's so many guys out there that just really, and you know, it's funny you said like they all do have a common denominator. All of them do have a pretty fucked up upbringing. You know, like
Yeah.
all of them were struggling with either substance abuse or like, you know, bad parents, or they were, you know, involved in something horrific, whatever. And they use comedy as an outlet and just oh my God, it's the best.
What I've learned about comedy is that it's truly figuring out who you are on stage. It's a lot like boxing. Boxing, you're figuring out what makes you a man, what, you're going to do in these times of panic. Same thing with comedy. You're learning who you are. You're expressing your thoughts, you're expressing your stories, and you're going through this process of like literally digging into your character and bringing it onto the stage to show to everybody. Um, there's a lot of like similarities between boxing and comedy, even just from like a training standpoint. So with boxing, my coach is always going on about you have to run at least 30 minutes a day. 30 minutes a day gives you your cardio for the ring. And when I used to have a comedy coach, I used to work with a couple of people in New York City. They would say you have to write for 30 minutes a day. You got to at least, dump everything in your brain out onto the paper for 30 minutes in the day. Even if you got nothing to write about, just write. I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. I don't like literally for 30 minutes straight. And then you extract little bits and pieces from the writings that you have, and you get to try and figure out how to make that into a joke, how to play a trick on the audience, how to make it something from your life relatable to the audience, and then add that surprise at the end to make them laugh.
Yeah, dude, that's really interesting. I've never really thought about the process. Like when I watch like old Sam Kinison videos, right? Like
Oh man, preacher. uh,
it's so good, dude. I was doing dishes a couple weeks ago, and I had YouTube up and watching old Sam Kinison. My wife walks in, she goes, "What's that guy's problem?" I go, everything's his problem. That's why he's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, so like this is a guy who notorious for doing coke for some of the listeners. He has all these problems with his relationships with his wife, with women in his life, and he takes that and he turns it directly into comedy, talking about how like I can't even imitate it, but he used to be a preacher and he has this scream that will light up the entire room and like this is what a woman will do to you, ah, and he just loses his mind. And I look at that, I'm like, wow, that's amazing.
He goes, "You want to hear what marriage sounds like?"
Yeah.
He's just screeching. It's great. The one I can't remember exactly the whole bit, but he had this guy on stage, and they called in to his ex-wife, and she was
Oh man.
like fucking his best friend or some shit, and
Yeah.
she just Sam Kinison is on the phone with her, and like everybody in the audience can hear it, and Sam Kinison is just ripping her a new asshole on the stage. It was so damn funny.
Oh
Oh my
man.
God, dude. It's unbelievable. Yeah, but like what you said though, right? Going back to it, like people that are so funny. I mean, unbelievably funny, dude. You'd go out of there with a hernia from laughing so hard, right?
Yeah.
But look at
Mm-hmm.
his life story.
Mm-hmm.
It's all over the place. There's a lot of trial and tribulation. There's a lot of struggle. There's a lot of suffering involved. The dude
Dealing
had
with
a drug
substance
problem.
abuse.
Dude couldn't keep a girlfriend around because of, you know, all of his issues with, you know, personal relationships. But dude, you put him on stage and he transcends to a different beast, and he just is able to kind of translate that into comedy, which
Yeah.
is fucking fantastic. I mean, God, it's the best ever, dude. It's
I
the
really
best.
think that like most celebrities in life are probably the most dysfunctional people you could ever meet. Like Kanye West, look at all the stuff he's going through and all his issues. Like I think the more fucked up you are, the more it translates into you just like zoning in on this one thing you got right in your life. I think the normal people in life, the people with a family and a relationship that like I think they're actually living the better lives, if I'm being honest. Oh
It
man.
could be, man, but you got to understand, most people that live the normal life, they have the personality of a dishcloth.
Yeah.
Have you ever talked to somebody that's like, you know, like, you remember when we were growing up and like the Fairly Odd Parents show?
Yeah.
Remember the Pixies, the fucking
Yeah.
dudes that were all gray? Like, dude, that's who those people are, dude. There's no emotion, no fucking creativity, no nothing. Everything's just gray and normal and boring, man. I would kill myself if I was in a room with those people. Put me in a room with 100 dysfunctional people, and we're gonna have a great time.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have a great time, until it's not. Until
Until
it's
it's not. Until it's
until it's
not.
not.
Yeah. Until somebody's beefing with somebody because they think
Yeah,
that the Earth is flat, and this person doesn't think the Earth is flat, right? Like it's just,
yeah.
I get it, but I'd rather see that dialogue and that creativity of people come out than people who, have the personalities of fucking
Yeah,
tires.
that's what life is. Life is imperfect. Life is meant to have conflict. If everything was easy, easy going, if everything was happiness, then we wouldn't have that contrast. We wouldn't know when the good times were around if we didn't have bad times to go through. So it all balances out.
No, it really does. And I think for me, on the worst days that I have, it makes me so thankful for the good days I have. Like
Yeah.
like when it's a good day and you're like, damn, this has been an awesome day. It makes you just double down your appreciation for it. And I'm very blessed to have. If I have one good day a week, I'm blessed.
Yeah.
Some weeks can be all 7 days are great. Some weeks all 7 days can be bad. But even if there's one in there that's good, I'm very thankful for it, and I'm always aware of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, one of my mentors that I work with, his name's Steve. He would say that if you're having more good days and bad days in your life, then that's a good life worth living. That's all you can really strive for in life is to just have more good days than bad days. You just take it one day at a time. Sometimes even 1 minute at a time if you have to. You appreciate when I was going through my bad times, when I was struggling overweight, when I was struggling with mental health, with addiction, with all that stuff, little things in life like a cup of tea, hanging out with some friends late at night at one of their band recitals, and all this other stuff around me is exploding and falling apart. But I had that one moment in that day, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna enjoy this.
Yeah.
Or maybe the sun comes out and some music's playing on the car, and the whole scene kind of comes together. And maybe I'm driving to a funeral, but just that one moment that's that's what life's about. That's what trying to seize the moment of the day and just take it one moment at a time, one day at a time.
I agree with you 100%, man. I think those little moments that go, most of the time people don't notice them. But,
No,
and most of the time I think everybody
too
doesn't notice
much in
them.
your own head.
Right. But if you can catch them,
It's worth it.
if you can catch them, it's worth it, man. Because I'll tell you, like one thing that I always will never forget, and it's great. It happens to me every November. Every November I go out and I hunt, and hunting is fucking miserable.
Yeah.
You're miserable from the minute you get to the hunting camp to the minute you leave. You're fucking miserable, right? You're freezing cold. You got some snacks, but you're not really eating good food most of the time, right? Unless we go into town to get dinner, all that good stuff, right? You're miserable, you're cold, you smell like shit because you're not showering for 3 fucking days, all this stuff, right? But what happens? You're 20 feet in a tree stand, you walk a mile to get to your fucking tree stand through the thick of the woods. A mountain lion or a bobcat come out and kill you in a minute, no big deal, right? Bear could come up and kill you. Who knows what'll happen, right? You could break your fucking leg, anything, fall out of the tree stand, all this crazy shit to hurt you. All of it's worth it when you're sitting there in a tree at 4:30 in the morning, it's pitch black, and you're able just to close your eyes and just hear the forest around you. Nothing else. Nobody's around for
Right.
miles, right? And it's just you. And then what happens? Hour and a half later, the sun comes up, right? And you hear the forest awake because you're out there, you're in the tree before the squirrels, before the rabbits, before the deer, before the birds. You're there before them. So what goes on there, every, 360 days a year when I'm not there, right? All these things happen when I'm not there. But when I am there and I'm able to experience it firsthand, right? It's those little moments that make the whole journey worth it.
Definitely.
Just to hear everything wake up, to hear the frost free, kind of dripping off the trees because it's melting because the sun's up. There's those little serene, beautiful moments where you just realize this is what it's all about, man. You're thankful to be alive.
So you go hunting a lot. What's like only once a year, or what's your usual schedule with hunting?
I hunt a couple different seasons. For deer, I hunt typically 2, 3 times a year. My best man, great, one of the most fucking important people to me in the world. He's got his family has like almost 75 acres, about an hour and a half west from here.
It's
And
pretty nice.
I've been very lucky, man. They're like a second family to me, man. They're the best. They took me in and they started getting me to more hunt more often. And last year I got a buck. This year I got a buck and a doe. So
Oh
I'll
man,
typically, yeah, I'll go like a week or two, a weekend or two with him during the season. And then
you cook it. You cook and eat the venison you get from the buck and deer.
not at deer camp. I normally take it to a butcher and have it processed to what I want. Like you can when you kill a deer, you cut its guts out. You basically field dress it. Okay, so all the
Yeah.
guts and everything's out. It's just the meat. You take that to a deer processing company or a shop, a butcher shop, and I got back like 110 pounds of meat, and they do like most of it in ground. So I have like little rolls of ground meat, and then the other half it's in steaks, and then I cook it at the house.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's
I gotta
something
go hunting sometime, man.
you
I
got it
love
to,
that.
man. It's something every human, in my opinion, should experience eating something you killed.
Hmm.
It doesn't taste this like if you kill a deer and I had like a piece of your deer sausage, I'm not thinking of it
It's not
like
the same.
it's not the same, man. But
Nope.
like I get so I don't want to use the word intimate because that's kind of fucking weird, but like I get so
Well, it's a relationship. It's
it is,
with
dude.
nature. It's something that I can totally see where you're coming from. That it's something that the normal person will never really experience until they do it themselves.
Dude, I cry every time I kill a deer. I cry, and it's not tears of like sadness; it's tears of thankfulness. Like
Yeah.
I'm
Hmm.
so thankful and blessed to be in this position right now in the middle of the United States, Nate Lechner in this tree. And I was so lucky that this deer just happened to be in my sights. It could have been behind me, it could have been to the left, it could have been the right, and I couldn't see nothing, and that's it. But for some reason, our fates, I believe everybody's fates is kind of like a double
Everything
helix.
happens
Like,
for a reason. I
right. And
agree.
for some reason, his path and my path crossed at that very moment in the universe. And
What happens next is history.
that's right. So I would recommend it, dude. Anybody out there, even if you're not a gun guy or a gun gal or a hunting person or you love animals or you don't love animals, whatever it is, I recommend spending a weekend in the woods on a hunting trip just because you find out a lot about yourself. Kind of like what you said about boxing, right? It's you versus you. Because,
Hmm.
dude, nobody wants to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, freezing cold when it's 6 degrees outside. Your camper doesn't have any fucking heat, and walk a mile through the woods to be cold for the next 6 hours. Like nobody wants to do that, but that's what you have to do.
There's a reason that like all these boxers will go out, like Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson will go out into the wilderness and train because it brings you back to more of that like primal nature of who we are as humans. I think that especially hunting and like being connected with nature is something that any person should apply to their life to help find out who they are. And that's something that's gonna be one of my goals. And it wasn't a goal up until I was talking to you. I'm like, you know what? I really need to try that out. I need to. I've been fishing. I love fishing, crabbing,
Same
and
here.
getting some. It's a lot more there's a lot more satisfaction when you catch what you're about to eat, and it does definitely add something to the magic of it all.
Yeah, I bought some lake property last year, and it's just a couple lots, but it gives me access to these 4 lakes where I can fish on. And I went fishing probably 100 times last year, man. It was the great because it's just something about being out there on a little boat in the middle of the lake, nobody else around, just me, fishing pole, and maybe sometimes I'll have my AirPods in, I'll listen to a music or some music or a podcast or whatever. Sometimes I'll just sit there and have just me and nature, right? And then when you get a bite, oh, dude, it's the best feeling ever getting a bite, right? Just to pull, but just being out there, dude, by yourself with your thoughts, it's just you versus you, at the same time.
Hmm.
And I see a lot of similarities too. When you said hunting and fishing is like primal, right? You do get like as men, I think we do get that primal satisfaction. I've never met one person that's mad when they're fishing. Like you can have a
Yeah.
shit day, you go fishing, you're having a good time. I've never seen somebody frown with a fishing pole in their hands, right? Because I think we do as humans, we get those primal satisfactions. Like we get
Mhm.
those. There's something in our core in our DNA that's like, oh, we're hunting and gathering or something like that, our food. But what you said earlier too, I've always thought about combat sports too as being primal.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
dude,
Hmm.
humans have beating up other humans since the beginning of time. There's something in our DNA that we love about that.
I've been doing a lot of like research into religion, science. I don't know. I don't even know what to call it. Um, They talk a lot about like becoming a beast, like in religion, when you give into these primal desires, you give into um, even fighting. You know, you're literally a lot of it's pride, a lot whatever you want to call it. It's wrath. It's um, like even my ring name is E Dog. Like you're becoming more animalistic in that pursuit of trying to better yourself. You're becoming more in tune, one with nature, in tune with yourself too. And I can't even describe it, man. It's like I really think everybody should fight at least one. Every man should fight at least once in their life just to see what they're made of. Because when I'm walking around um, my day to day life, when I'm working in Patterson as a medic, or knocking on houses, looking after the kids at my new job as a DIFUS worker, like I know that I'm going to be okay. I know how my body is going to respond to danger. I know that if in a flight or fight situation, this is how I'm going to react. So yeah, it's crazy. You do become more of an animal though. That's something to balance out too. There are drawbacks to that type of lifestyle.
No, I agree with that though, and I think you're right. So what happened for me is my personal experience. I've been in my fair share of street fights in my life, and I've been very blessed. I've never got my shit kicked in. I've always been on the good end of the fight, right? What happened? I went to this MMA gym, and I'm like, and I have a decent ego on me. Everybody does. But I go
Hmm.
in there and I try to just think of myself as like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna do my very best and we'll see what happens, right? But what happened? I got in there and I met people who, if they wanted to, they could kill me, and there's nothing I could do about it. Like as many street fights that I've been in and how tough I think I am, these dudes just have the skill. If they wanted to, they could fucking rip my throat out and throw it
Hmm.
across the room, and there's nothing I could do about it. Like other than shooting them, there's no way for me to stop them. So like,
Yeah.
I got in there with the mentality of like, okay, I just need to learn as much as I can from these people. And I was able, when I did some light spar, and I mean light, some light sparring with these guys, I was able to use that as a benchmark of like where my true skill is. Like, there's a difference. You get into a bar fight, you get on top of somebody and you pound their face in, right? And maybe they know how to fight, maybe they don't, right? But like, that's a different than you're in the room with somebody who's training to kill you.
Yeah,
Like it's different.
definitely.
It's different. And I just like can't be thankful enough going in there with that mentality that I had of like, hey, I'm just gonna do my best, leave the ego outside. And I was able to meet some people who could fuck me up 100 times over. And can I beat them now? Definitely not, for sure not. But am I still maybe 10%, 20% better than what I was? Yeah, man, for sure. And that makes all the difference to me. And I'm hoping to continuously, grow with them as as they get better. Hopefully, I can follow suit and get better as well.
Fighting will keep you humble. Fighting will, you kind of said it yourself, you're going to go in there and do whatever the best you can. Some people don't go in there to the gym with that mentality. I've met a lot of people who come into our gym um, who are like, I'm going to hurt people. I'm going to come in here and destroy everybody. And like, this is war. And they learn pretty quickly, like either like, you know, you're gonna learn the easy way or the hard way. You're gonna get beaten up, or you're gonna simmer down pretty quick.
Yeah.
But
There's
I
always a
think,
bigger fish, right?
yeah,
There's always a bigger fish.
no matter what you do in life, there's gonna be somebody who looks better than you, that makes more money than you, that and it's not about. This is another great point. You never want to compare yourself to another person in life, and I will definitely touch back on that in just a second.
Am I
But
really blurry?
yeah, a little bit.
Why am I so blurry? Sorry, fellas.
No,
Technical
you're good. Two
difficulties.
seconds.
There we go. Bingo.
Yeah, there we go. So, the takeaway from boxing that I've learned is that like it keeps you very humble. It allows you to walk throughout my day. It allows me to go throughout my day, and I'm not looking for fights. I'm not this ball of anger, trying to instigate and start situations. And in most cases, I will do everything in my power not to fight somebody, to not have an incident out on the street. Like some of the most humble people you'll meet in your life are usually fighters. They don't want to disrupt or cause commotion throughout their daily living. um And that kind of goes back to what I was saying before about not comparing yourself to others. And I used to be this person too, especially dealing with pride, dealing with your own ego. You tend to compare yourself to people in your surroundings, like, oh, what do they do that I can't? What do these people have that I don't have? And that's not the right way to look at it. The right way to look at it is these are all the great things I have going for me. This is all I have to offer to the world and to the people around me. And I'm going to, be the best version of myself possible and try and develop these relationships with the people around me to the best of my ability.
Yeah, that's huge, man. For me too, growing up kind of, poor with a dysfunctional family, drug addict parents, all this good stuff, man. Never met my biological dad. For the
Yeah.
longest time, dude, from like when I was young all the way to I'm 28. Oh my God, I just said that. I'm 27. I'm turning 28 in March. Jesus Christ. Um, I'd say until I was about 26, I felt like I had something to prove. Always. Always had something to prove.
Hmm.
Always had to be the toughest guy in the room, always had to be the loudest, the biggest, the strongest, whatever, right? The richest, the most successful kid out of my friend group, right? I always had something to prove. And, like when I started realizing that there's always a bigger fish out there and the comparisons are not anything positive whatsoever, they're just worse. And it's all just vanity, essentially, right? When I realized that, I was like, dude, like now I can stop trying to keep up with others and just like you said earlier, man,
Right.
be the best version of myself.
Yep.
And that's what all that matters, dude. Like luckily enough, dude, my wife and I, we've been together for since like early 2019,
That's
and
amazing.
yeah, dude, like we've been married, we got married in October, right? But we've been together a long time. We've lived with each other since 2020. So we've been together a long time. But
Hmm.
I like always wanted to prove myself. And then she one time like had a conversation with me. She was like, I don't know what you're trying to prove. Like, I've never asked you to be anything that you're not. And I was just like, what am I like? Who am I trying to impress? Like the girl that I'm gonna be married soon to back then, now I am married to, she loves every ounce of me, my good, bad, the ugly, all facets of me, she loves, right? And I feel the same way about her. So like I just came to a conclusion, like, dude, who are you fucking trying to impress? Like, what's the point? These people like don't care about you. It doesn't matter at the end of we're all gonna die. We're all gonna be in a fucking box, dude, dead underground. Like it doesn't
Goes by
matter.
quick. It goes by
Right.
so quick.
So the whole point of what I'm trying to say, dude, is like whenever I lost the ideology of trying to be the best out of my friend group or people I know and just started just trying to be the best to me, right? Eating better, sleeping better, living better and doing things that I enjoy. It was such a huge revelation for me. And my anxiety has been cut in half, right? Because, oh, my buddy buys a bigger house than me. That makes me upset. Why?
Mm.
Why the fuck would that make you upset, dude? Like, why? Be
Yeah.
happy that they're having, that success in the moment. Your success will come. Like
Hmm.
it's when I had that revelation, I'd say almost 2 years ago, give or take, maybe a little longer than that. But it was just such a huge game change for me, man.
This too shall pass, like I tend to tell myself that a lot when I'm having these bad times in my life and my friends are going through their good times. I just tell myself, hey, this too shall pass. In a couple weeks, maybe I'll be on top, and maybe we'll all be. And the hope is we'll all be on top, but
Right.
um, just one day at a time.
Peaks and valleys, brother. I mean,
Peaks and valleys.
every traveler, peaks and valleys.
I had this health teacher when I was in elementary, Mr. P. And he called it his timeline of life. He's like, listen, there's going to be these little dips and wanes and ups and downs in your life until from birth until death, and you just got to stick around to see it all, because it's like, how fast did your past week go by? It's Sunday already.
Dude, zipped.
Yeah, zipped by. And there's some days for me that'll drag, that will I feel like I'm staring at my screen at my office and I'm just like, oh my God, like
Hurry
this
up,
won't
3 o'clock.
end. And
Yeah.
then I blink and here I am Sunday talking to you, and I'm like, damn, another week's gone. And what did I do with my week? And it's not that you always have to be gas, 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 gas every week. There's time to relax. There's time to enjoy the life too. But just know that this human experience that we're all having is very short, and to enjoy every second you can, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything in between. Um, I saw a lot of that on my ambulance. There are these the kids that I used to help out. Some didn't make it past a year. Some people lived until they were 100 plus, and you just got to be thankful for every minute you got.
Yeah, you're right, man. And I don't I didn't want to bring this up, but I'm going to bring it up because one of the most important interactions that you and I ever had together, you told me a story, and
Mm.
it changed my outlook on things. Do you remember? Do you have any idea what I'm about to talk about?
Oh
It's a
God,
story you
no.
told me on the end. So this is years ago. We're playing Xbox, and you just weren't yourself. You know what I mean?
Mm.
You weren't yourself that day. And this is before your journey, right? You were heavy, kind of, I'm
Yeah.
sure you had your bad habits. And I was like, dude, like, what's going on, man? You're like, you're kind of being quiet. And you're just like, this 9-year-old kid passed away in my hands today.
Oh,
Like,
yeah. I remember that one.
yeah, dude. And like, I knew it fucking killed you. I knew it did. I could tell in your voice, your whole demeanor, like you weren't yourself. And ever since that, man, I'll never forget. And you're probably shocked that I remember that, but it's one
I
thing.
do, dude. I'm so
Yeah,
surprised you
dude.
remember that.
People can say what they want about me, man. My memory is fantastic. I remember everything. I remember everything. My wife hates me for it, but I remember everything. And what actually sucks, it kind of is a detriment to me because I can't, there's no excuse, right? If I say, oh, I forgot to do something, she's gonna be like, no, you
Yeah.
fucking didn't. You just didn't want to do it. So, no, but when you told me that story, I thought about it that night when we got off and I was going to bed. I thought about it that night and I was like, that 9-year-old kid, man, like his clock expired,
Yep.
that's it for him. His story's ends.
Hmm.
And some days, dude, when I have a bad day, whatever it is, right? Like I just had to replace my furnace for like 6 grand. Okay. That's a shitty thing to happen to me, right? 6 grand out the door just to replace my furnace. But like I get to live another day.
Yep.
There's people on their deathbeds that would trade that bad day for one of their bad days any day of the week. And
Yeah.
so I read this quote recently too, and it made me think about you again and some of the other things we're talking about. And it's from Meditations. It says, if it's endurable, then endure it and stop complaining.
Right.
Meaning, if it's not going to end your life, deal with it and move the fuck on.
Hmm.
Because there's people out there that don't get a second shot, that pass away unexpectedly due to whatever circumstances, and they would kill to be in your position.
Yeah. And I see it all the time. They're like, I've come to the conclusion that I'm not ever going to be like content with where I'm at. Like, even when I was losing weight, it was, if I can just make it to 220, then I'll be happy. And then I got to 220. It's like, maybe if I can make it to 200. Maybe if I got bigger arms. Maybe if I got blah, 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 blah. I'm sure it's the same with money. If I can just get an apartment, if I can just get a house, the next and the next big thing. But like, just thank God that I'm here to experience this, to experience the ups and downs, because like that call, there isn't a day that call doesn't leave me. There isn't a day where I don't. It maybe not like the forefront of my thoughts, but it definitely,
It's in there.
yeah, it impacted me. It's why I pushed myself so hard. It's why I drive myself to see what it is I want in life, why I fight so hard, because eventually my clock's going to expire, and I'm trying to come to terms with that. Like, a lot of people think that this experience just keeps going, but I want to see what I want to see in my life, and who knows what happens after this. But for this small window of opportunity I have in the next 50 years of my life, I want to experience everything that Ethan, in this form, can.
Yeah. What do you think the purpose of life is?
Oh God.
You
I've
don't
been
have to
dealing
give
with
me. You don't
this.
have to give me the. I
Yeah.
have my own.
No.
I have my own belief. You don't have to give me like the book version. But like, what do you think?
Yeah, yeah. What do I think the purpose of life is? I think it's to learn. I think part of it's to learn. I think it's to experience these connections with other people, with your surroundings. I think it is to take these lessons, and I don't know if you follow like Buddhist religion at all, or
I've
they
read quite a bit.
yeah, they call it samsara. It's the cycle of rebirth, redeath, and kind of like continuation. I forget the exact reincarnation. That's the exact
Yeah.
word.
So basically, you're trying to get it right, right? So you live these
Yeah.
lives to get until you get it right.
And I try and apply this to I very much meld everything spiritually that I learned together. I don't know if there ever is a getting it right. I don't think that's even possible. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Who's to say? They say Buddha was the first person to get it right, but you take these lessons from one experience to the next, from one day to the next. You try and be good to the people around you. And I break this down into, like, if I was the best version of me, what would my day look like? I would wake up and I'd have a loving family. I'd have my kids. They would be well taken care of. They would be fed, clothed. They would enjoy their lives. I'd have a wife that loved me and I loved very much. And, um, then I'd go to my work, and what would my work do? And for some people, that might be learning more about this universe. That might be helping science along, or maybe it's helping your surroundings or your environment. Maybe it's dealing with environmental cleanups and dealing with pollution. You're trying to take each day and better your surroundings and make life better, not only for yourself but for your community and the people that you love in your life. I think that more than anything is my purpose in life. Maybe not everybody's, but
Yeah, that's really awesome to hear, man. I have a more kind of it's more basic, but it's more like realistic version, in my opinion.
yeah.
Uh, I think we're here for two reasons. I think one, to reproduce.
Mm.
I think that's biologically like to reproduce, and I think
It's the
the
animal in
other
us.
right the other part of it is to better our gene pool, right?
Mm.
Through some form, right? So, for example, like evolution, evolution's real, but I know my spiritual belief kind of negates that a little bit. But evolution, to a certain extent, is real, right? So, for example, like that bird, and I'm sure you've read this before, but like there's a bird in I can't remember if it's like Galapagos Island or Africa or South America. I can't remember where it's at, but over time, the bird's beak grew longer so they could get farther into
Toucans.
trees.
Yep.
No, it wasn't a toucan, it's a small bird.
Oh, okay.
But millions of years ago, these birds had these little tiny beaks, and what happened? They ate all the surface bugs. Okay, so they started to die out. Well, their evolution, like the birds started like doing something to get their beaks longer. So like now the next generation had a little longer beaks and a little longer beaks the next generation, so on and so on and so on. So they modified their species so now they could get the bugs in the trees. And now that species is around because they evolved. I think as humans, not only is it our duty to reproduce, but I think every human should be striving to better our gene pool, right? So um, let's say like Ebola, right? Ebola has like a 90% mortality rate. Where I think as somebody out there's goal is to cure Ebola to prevent it from taking us out. All these other diseases and all these other complications and all these things that can limit human growth and potential. I think that's kind of what another role is in our life is to better our human species gene pool so we can continue to grow.
I could agree to that to a certain extent. I believe that humans are a mixture of both animalistic instinct and spiritualistic pursuit. I think that we're both half an animal and we're half higher power in some way or another. You can definitely see it in our habits, in the way we function in our daily lives, and like that animal part is definitely looking to better. You want to survive. You want to make sure that your genes are, you know, uh, however you want to put it, they are passed on to the next generation. And then the other half of me also thinks that this mortal coil, this shell that we have, is just a vessel that that our spirit or a higher essence, whatever you want to call it, inhabits for this short period of time to learn these lessons, um, to go through a human experience. So
No, you're right, and science proves that. Science proves that
yeah,
spirits are real, and the reason why is that energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transferred. So, like,
yep.
you know, whenever we die, that energy that's inside of us has to go somewhere. Now, is
Hmm.
that like a conscious movement, who knows, right? I don't know. I
Yeah.
never bet, who knows? But it goes somewhere for sure. So I agree with you 100% in that case. I think for sure that our bodies as of right now are just kind of like a husk, in my opinion. But you said a shell. I like that. So we're just a
Yeah.
shell full of experiences and whatnot for now. And who knows where that transcends after death, right? But
Yeah.
I think you're 100% right there.
I mean, this universe has been around for billions of centuries. God only knows how long the human, we've been here for such a short fraction of time in comparison. Like,
Oh yeah, well, dude, we
obviously,
don't know. They started
yeah,
recording history like 100,000 years ago. Dude. Like humans have been around a lot longer. Earth is like 5 billion years old. The universe they think is 14 billion years old. So like, I
yeah.
mean, dude, like most of our history is not written down. We don't even know. You know what I
Oh
mean?
God,
Like
no.
the fact that there are still buildings in this world that we don't even know who built them tells us enough. Like we don't know shit about shit, dude.
I think one of the I forget I believe it was King Sirius in it was like either the Persian Empire, but there's an old story of like, there was this famous king from the Persian Empire, and he was so obsessed with immortality and building his surroundings and building this environment. And the archaeologists who discovered his empire found a tombstone in the middle of like a desert, just vast empty desert, and it said, "Here lies Sirius, and behold his glorious empire that will be, span the age of decades." And it was just nothing but dust. And I think that's something that's very like pertinent to mortality. Is it doesn't matter what you build here. It doesn't matter um what it is that you try to create. Like time will get us all eventually. Time will erode the healthiest of bloodlines, the strongest of pools, the greatest of creations and inventions. But um I think what does stick around is these connections you build with people, these small like moments where you affect somebody else's life and you help that person either go through their experience in a better way or a negative way. Like that's I think part of that is the spiritual experience of a human being.
Yeah, you're right, dude. And it's all relevant to like what you do in the now, right? So like the interaction we're having right now, like, is this gonna
Yeah,
matter in
we're
500
bouncing
years?
off each other.
Right. But like, is this gonna matter in 500 years, dude? Probably not. Right. But like, does it matter tremendous to me right now? Yeah, dude, absolutely. So like that counts for
Definitely.
something.
This is
Like,
awesome. Being able to do
yeah,
something like this means a lot. Right now to me, I'm like, dude, I get to go through I don't know, I was boxing before this at like a nutrition workshop, and then I get to come out here and hang out with you and do a podcast. I'm like, all right, this is a really great, this is a today's a win. Today is a win, and I get to mark that down one of those days today, and try and have another win tomorrow.
this is what it's all about, man. The small wins that lead up to a grander victory. You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
small battles that lead you to winning the war is what's all it's about. And for me, man, doing this, like, I just have a lot of fun, dude. Like I said, like I told you earlier, dude. Like, do I ever think I'm gonna make $1 off this thing, dude? Fuck no, man. Like, it's just awesome meeting people like you, like meeting other people that who I've known either I've known for a while or who I don't know. Learning about them, talking about them, kind of hearing their ideology on things. Like, it's so much fun for me, dude. It's the best. And to all out there who listens, like, I hope you guys enjoy it too. If not, I mean, I don't really care. I'm gonna do it either way, but. I mean, I hope somebody gets some value out of this. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
I'll
like,
be thinking about hunting. So, that's something that's gonna be on the forefront of my mind for a little while. I'm like, maybe I'm gonna get a bow, go for what do they call it, compound bow hunting or something like that.
sure, dude, you come to Missouri, I'll take you. I mean, I'm a big
One
duck
of these
hunter as well.
days.
My buddy got me into duck hunting last year or 2 years ago, and duck hunting is more fun than deer because one, it's not as miserable. You don't have to be quiet. It's just like you and like four dudes sitting there drinking. People drink beer. I just drink a water. But like just hanging out, talking. Have the radio on. The ducks are so oblivious. They fly through, and you just light them up, and then that's it. You can kill like 15 ducks a day here. So like
Yeah.
it's different than if you want to get into the fun of hunting. I would say start with duck hunting because it's more rewarding. Because typically you always get at least one or two. Um, you can hunt deer for 5 years and not even see nothing.
Yeah.
you know, you kind of gotta. I would recommend if you want to go hunting, I would get into some waterfowl for sure.
No, I'll have to keep in touch. We'll have to make that happen. Somewhere down the line in the future when I got my shit together and I got my own place and things are cruising along, I could see that happening.
Yeah, dude, we'll make it. I mean, there's enough time, hopefully, right? I don't
Make
think
time
we're
for
both
what counts.
young. Yeah, dude, we're both young. I don't think we're going anywhere, you know. So like, I'm not worried. It can be in 5 years, 5 months, 10 years. Like, we'll make it happen for sure. Um, I did want to touch base on something one quick. I know we're kind of getting a little long on the time, but
Sure.
so kind of what is your like? How do you do it, right? Like I said, your journey is fantastic. You're kicking ass in all these categories. Are there any kind of like I don't want to say like cheats, but like specific techniques or anything that you have that you do to excel and push yourself forward?
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to share a little bit about that. You have to start. A lot of people like I think an overwhelming majority of people say they're going to do something and never do it. Um, Rocky, tomorrow, tomorrow. And then Apollo Creed comes over to
There
Rocky.
is no
Like, damn,
tomorrow.
son, the hell's the matter with you? There is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow. If you don't start right now on your goal, if it's you don't start losing weight right now, you don't put down that cookie, you don't I don't know, you want to start painting, you don't, start sketching in your notepad or do like you need to start now. Because if you don't start now, it might not be tomorrow. And I learned that the hard way. There might not be a tomorrow. Besides that, once you start, that's the hardest part. Once you start, just take it one day at a time. Not every, it doesn't have to be these grand. I'm starting a vlog. I'm doing this, and I got one down, and it wasn't the greatest vlog ever. There's all these glitches and stuff I'm dealing with the reel system with, but it's something I want to do. It's something I want to, try out, and kind of like what with this podcast. It might not be the most popular thing in the world, but I want to do it. So I'm going to take it one day at a time and just, I'm going to write down my goals. That's another one. Joey Diaz. I don't know if you listen to that comedian at all. Joe
Oh
Rogan,
yeah,
Joey Diaz. They
he's a
talk about
riot.
it a lot. Oh my God. I love
He's a
Joey
riot.
Diaz. Write down your goals. I live and die by a notebook like this. Can't really see it here, but sticky notes, notepads. You have to have a definitive goal that you're chasing after. Once you have the goal, then you can begin to do the work. For me, losing weight. What's my goal? I want to be 220 pounds. All right. So, what am I going to have to do that? I need a calorie deficit. So, now I need to figure out what my basic metabolic rate is, how many calories I'm burning each day by just standing around. Then I need to figure out how much I'm eating a day. And then you start to break down your goal into all these little steps. And then, or like, I want to save up for a house, I want to save up for an apartment. How much money are you making each month? How much are you spending each month? How much can you save and put away? How much do you want to use for luxuries? Little things like that. Write down your goals, take it one day at a time. um, I think the biggest thing that I can really say is enjoy the process. You don't want to have to fight the process. It's very tough to accomplish something when you don't like doing something. Now, there is going to be days where you have to push through. There are going to be days where that are going to suck, that are going to be the more grueling parts of the workouts, the saving, the cutting the corners and pinching the pennies, whatever you want to call it. But just keep in mind that goal you're chasing after, and one step at a time, you'll make it there.
I love that, man. I think people lose sight of that along the way, right? I think I agree with you. I think most people don't even start. Everybody
Yep.
wants to be rich. Everybody wants to be healthy, successful, sexy, whatever you want to be, right? But it's always tomorrow. Oh,
Hmm.
I have this excuse. Oh, I walked my dogs today, and I'm guilty of this too, man. I'm not fucking perfect. I'm guilty of it just as much as the next.
Everybody is. Yeah.
Like, dude, I can't tell you how many things I've wanted to do in my life, and I'm just like, oh, maybe I'll do it next year. Maybe I'll do it next year. And it's just bad, toxic behavior to do that. Um, I wanted to do this podcast for over a year.
Mm.
I pushed it off till August of last year. And one day I just did it, dude. And I was like, hey, you know what? If I fail and it's boring and people don't watch it, who cares, man? But like, I'm gonna do it.
Best
And
time to plant a tree was 10 years
yes,
ago.
yeah, if I
Second
say
best time
yesterday
is
or 10
today.
years ago. That's right. That's so true, dude. But like just in everything. So I mean, if people have aspirations, they just need to try. They just need to go for it.
Do it. Just do it.
Just do it.
Nike, just do it.
Nike. That's right. But I mean, on the same token, you said something that's really awesome too that I think people don't ever think about. Let's say you want to do something challenging like losing weight, arguably one of the hardest things you can do, right? And I'm not talking about, oh, I want to get my beach bod, I need to lose 5 pounds.
Yeah.
Fuck you. No, I'm talking about being morbidly obese on your fucking way to a deathbed, and you need to have life-changing weight loss. Something like you done, right? That takes more strength and courage and consistency than anything out there. Okay. But what happened? You
There's been
started.
failures. Oh, sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good, man.
You're gonna fail. Like, do not be afraid of failing. I've lost fights. I've lost days. There are days where I binge eat. There's still days where I binge eat. And like, you take those failures and you learn from them. You take those experiences and you just keep moving forward. You don't stop because you fucked up one day. You don't blow a tire on Route 80 and then slash out your other 3 tires.
Right.
You change the tire and you keep going.
Yeah, it wouldn't make any sense. But when you said though, enjoy the process, no matter what it is, enjoy the process.
Yeah.
Not only are you going to have a better time if you enjoy the process, but I think, in my opinion, from what I've done with certain other things, if you enjoy the process while you do it, the results come quicker.
They do. You got to find what your process is. Everybody has a different ladder. Just because you like Joe Rogan doesn't mean you have to emulate his life completely. Just because you like for me personally, just because I love Mike Tyson doesn't mean I have to fight just like him. Just because, oh, hey, my buddy is doing this exercise. You got to find what exercise you like. You have to find what job you like. Everything's going to have its drawbacks. Everything's going to have the parts that suck. You just got to find what you like doing that you can enjoy the most out of.
Yeah, dude, I think we should end it on that. I think that's the most important thing that I've heard in a long time. And I think it's so relevant to everybody. So, guys, if you're out there and you made it this far, thank you so much for joining us. Episode 17 with my good friend Ethan here, aka E-Dog, the Golden Glove champ. Thank if you haven't already, man, like, subscribe to the Be Better podcast on YouTube. Check us out on Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, whatever you want. Ethan, plug in all your information, man, so they can see more about your journey and watch you kick some more ass.
Sure. Do you want me to just drop it in the chat, or how does that work?
I don't know about that. Just maybe say it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no. So I'm at eDog Boxing on Instagram, eDog Boxing on YouTube, I believe. It might just be eDog. That's my major 2 handles you can find me at. So I'm mostly on Instagram, eDog Boxing. Yeah, I go to Aces Boxing Gym in Boonton, New Jersey. Cannot recommend that gym enough. Helped me change my life, helped me lose my weight. Coach, staff, clinic, everybody there. It's a great environment to be in. We're a pack of dogs that stick together, and we really, when shit comes up in our lives, we deal with it, and we stick together. So even if you're not in New Jersey, just find your tribe and start climbing.
Yeah, dude, I agree. It takes a tribe, it takes a village to do anything successful. So, and if anybody out there, if you're having a hard time finding his content or his links or anything, message me directly. I'll send you the right way, promise. Well, dude, thanks again for everything, man. Thanks again for being on here and sharing some of this awesome insight. And I'm really proud of you, man, to see you go from, a heavy guy that's playing Xbox with me to just a dominant ass kicker in life category, dude. So I can't wait to see where you go from here.
Yeah, Nate, it's been awesome being on this podcast. I'm glad to see you're also chasing your dreams with the podcast. And it sounds like you're kicking ass in life too. You got your wife and kids.